of you that are on the West Coast, thank you for joining us today. I'm Michael Schreck, CEO of Collegiate Sports Management Group, and we are excited to kick off episode 3 of our bi-weekly empowerment series. Today's topic and focus is going to be in and around esports, and some of the things that we will discuss on today's panel include collegiate esports, high school esports. We'll discuss business and growth strategies. We'll talk about some of the initiatives that some of the folks on the panel have going on in their respective organizations. And we'll talk a lot about the future of esports and where everything is going in the pandemic and post-pandemic. So thank you all for being with us today. We are very fortunate enough to have phenomenal panelists with us to discuss these topics. You guys will hear from these folks, not in the order that I introduced them, but certainly throughout the discussion here today. First and foremost, we have Dan Coonan with us, who is currently the commissioner of the ECAC and has been the commissioner since 2016. The ECAC is currently a 250-plus member governing body. Dan launched ECAC Esports several years ago, and a lot of his traditional sports members also participate in esports. And Dan is also a new author, having published his first book called Presidential Spirits. Thank you for being here today, Dan. We appreciate it. Dan, you are muted. Let's unmute Dan.
I'm sorry. Thanks. It's great to be with you. And thanks for the shout out on the book, buddy.
Absolutely. Everybody on the panel must buy the book, or else we're going to have to throw you off of the panel. Next up on today's panel is Trevor Jenson. Trevor is the co-founder of Generation Esports, formerly HSCL, where Trevor and his team are doing some great things across the high school landscape in esports, and he's certainly going to share a lot of the things that he's doing today, and he'll provide great value to us as we go through the conversation. Trevor, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. Excited to talk with you guys.
Absolutely. The next person on the panel is Patrick Klein. Patrick is currently the Chief Strategy Officer at eFuse, which is a web and mobile application that provides a social platform and helps coordinate different events. Patrick and his team are doing a lot of great things in esports, and they've come onto the scene fairly quickly as they've established the company. Patrick, thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me. I'm also working on my book, Dan, so we'll get back to you on that.
Awesome.
It's about 10 years out.
See a forward coming.
Yeah.
Our next panelist is Kevin Mitchell. Kevin founded the College Esports Expo, a forum for academics, students, gamers, and esports enthusiasts to discuss curriculum, programming, and career development. Kevin is also a professor at Emerson College and is a informational wealth of knowledge as it relates to esports. Kevin, thank you for being here with us.
Michael, thanks for having me, and you're far too kind. Thanks for joining the session. Thanks.
And last but not least on the panel today is Jeff White. Jeff is currently the NJCAA's Chief Legal, Diversity, and Equity Officer and has been with the organization since 2018. Jeff is also the Executive Director of NJCAAE, which is the esports platform underneath the governing body. And Jeff, we're extremely excited to have you with us today as well.
Thank you, Michael. Looking forward to it.
And the moderator, so you don't have to listen to me anymore, is my esteemed associate and colleague and business partner, Neil Malvone. And Neil is an EVP at CSMG, is our executive director of esports within CSMG and on the board of the NJCAAE. Neil also was involved in the curriculum for esports at Caldwell University, where he's a professor. Neil, take it away, my friend.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate the introduction for everybody, and welcome panelists to our third empowerment series. We're very excited to be here today to talk about esports. And thank you to all of our attendees in the audience. I would just ask if everybody could keep their computers on mute so that we can hear our panelists and not hear any background noise. Let's get started with a very simple question, and that's to everybody to just give me an overview of where you see collegiate esports right now, from your perspectives in your various leadership positions. We'll start with Dan, and everybody will have an opportunity to answer.
Well, I think college esports it's having a great moment in light of what's happening with intercollegiate athletics, and I know that we've used it as an opportunity, and we're actually doing more. We added events and took it not just through this pandemic, but we're going into the summer as well. And it's still a bit of the Wild West, and I think that provides a great opportunity for us. I think people know we aligned with CSMG, and we're marching forward, and we just in 3 years we went from 12 schools to 40 schools to 70 schools, and we may have over 100. So I think there's real opportunities for us in the governance of esports, and we're thrilled that brands are getting excited about it, and there's broadcasting opportunities and all sorts of things. So I couldn't be more excited about this side, and we do a lot on the intercollegiate athletics side. So it's nice that we've got this stuff going on to fill in at this moment.
Thank you, Dan. Trevor, why don't you give us a little bit of your thoughts on the current esports industry and how it relates to college?
Yeah, happy to. So I think college is still somewhat in its infancy. I think a lot of schools, there were some early adopters who were exploring the idea, and they've done pretty well, and they're still kind of looking for the right partnerships and the right things to do. And there's a lot more that are interested. And I think this whole pandemic is going to, accelerate that growth. It was already growing quickly, but this is just going to accelerate it because all the traditional sports are kind of put on hold. But, over the last 2 years, we've facilitated 40 million in scholarships through our players to play in college. So, and I think that's still very early, very, very much in its infancy. So I'm looking forward to all the things that are happening behind the scenes and kind of where the college industry is going.
That's an impressive number, Trevor, $40 million in the short time that you guys have been operating Gen Esports. That's very impressive.
Thank you.
Patrick, let's hear from your perspective as somebody that's new to the esports industry, launching your company in January, and where do you see the general view of the industry right now?
Yeah, I think there's 2 points I really want to hit on. First, I think that there's a lot of elite organizations and people that are trying to do amazing things within the industry, within the collegiate space. I get to hear from those visionaries, on a weekly, monthly basis. And I think what I know from that is that the opportunities that are going to exist in the collegiate space are going to be really empowering. So I think it's a great time to get involved in collegiate esports right now. And find your niche, find a place where you as a student or a college or as a program director really fit in. The second thing, I think that there's a lot of opportunity for growth. I think that there's a couple of important pieces that need to be fixed, updated, made whole, in a sense of providing that true pipeline, that true pathway, that true connection through all the different steps of collegiate esports. And we're really excited at eFuse to help try to provide those opportunities to bring attention to the organizations that are already doing great work and really amplify their mission and their mission and their vision. So we're really excited about where that is and how we fit into that puzzle.
Yeah, and you do fit in well with your associations with different groups across the industry, and I think we'll look forward to hearing more of that during this discussion.
Thanks, Neil.
Kevin, you're really immersed in the collegiate esports space. Obviously, your business is focused primarily there, and also as a professor. Where do you see the current overview of collegiate esports right now?
Well, Neil, I think for me, the brightest opportunity is with colleges. You know, with COVID coming upon the colleges, you know, so rapidly, there was a rush to really have to think about how to engage students and how to retain them with the emergence of all these virtual environments. And I think esports is a perfect fit, thinking about engaging with students and how you can keep collective communities on campus and off campus, you know, focused on you know, the value that is put into a college education, and thinking about the price point for collegiate education and creating that value proposition for students. I think the schools are going to be more receptive to onboarding programs like this to be able to look at career development opportunities. Thinking about the landscape for seniors now, it's pretty detrimental. You think about, you know, if you prepared for a career for 4 years and all of a sudden the pandemic has created all this disruption, I think there's an opportunity for the reestablishment of career development pipelines that can help students look at alternative careers that can emerge from esports, careers that are similar to traditional sports industry, or all the technical layers that esports brings with big data, analytics, machine learning, and things like that. So I think the opportunity for colleges is robust. It's just a matter of them taking advantage of it. And I do think that the explosion of viewership in esports will prompt them to think about how they can engage more properly, and also thinking about the whole landscape in terms of the community beyond just the players, and looking at all the other participants in the ecosystem. So I think this is a unique chance for colleges to rethink their, you know, their sports model, their curriculum, and thinking about intramurals as well.
You mentioned it a couple of times, Kevin, the word communities, and we'll talk more about the social relationships and social impact of esports later, but that's a fantastic word, and a very important one, I think, right now, especially because a lot of that on-campus community life is going to be, at least for a while, hindered or slowed down a little bit. So we'll certainly come back to that, but that's a terrific perspective. Jeff, last but not least on this initial question about the overview of collegiate esports, as the chairman of the NJCAAE, would love to hear your perspective on the general overview right now.
Sure, I think I'd echo a lot of the same sentiments that Kevin just shared. You know, having recently served as a vice president at one of the NJCAAE member schools, I really always viewed esports as a pathway for student engagement. But I think what's nice is it's not just a tool for schools to drive enrollment, but I think just as importantly, if not more importantly, it's an opportunity for students to reduce the cost of education, as Kevin was saying, and sometimes in some cases, in some schools, to eliminate it altogether. I mean, as we know, an engaged student is one that stays and completes. Esports opens the door, creates a pathway for a lot of students that don't typically have the opportunity to be a part of a team. They get that experience to represent the school, to wear the shield, so to speak, and all of the other benefits that I think we know and attribute with team sports. And then the last thing for me is I recall attending my first esports convention and just really being blown away by the diversity of the attendees and the participants. And I remember thinking at that time, as an administrator at a school, why am I not here? Why is my staff not here? How are we not recruiting? How do we not have a presence at this? And so I think in light of current events, you know, esports allows students to stay engaged with their schools. It creates, improves opportunities for greater access to education. And in short, it's, you know, it's a space where right now everyone seems to be winning.
It's a great perspective too, Jeff, especially again with where we are in the world right now. Those aspects are real important on the college in the college ecosystem. Let's go to Patrick. And Patrick, your platform is a social platform where your goals are to engage the esport community, the word that Kevin has used a few times. Discuss the importance of that social aspect of esports, especially on college campuses, and also focus a little bit on the special or the, you know, the different types of groups that are socially engaged in esports, and those groups that we need to do a little bit more for?
Yeah, thanks for teeing that up. Yeah, we focus on three really important aspects for the collegiate market. That is recruitment, retention, and placement. So when we think about this picture in this industry, we truly want to add as much value as we can in those three areas. So in the area of recruitment, how can we help, whether varsity programs, you know, program directors, or even intramural programs, how can we provide them a place to recruit for their events, their programs, scholarships, enrollment? And so we truly really are thinking about that holistically so that we can provide those opportunities for the schools that already are on our platform, that recruit on our platform, that utilize it. But you have to remember what eFuse is, and Matthew's vision in his creation of this is giving gamers the ability to build out a verified portfolio, a holistic thing that showcases, and as Jeff said, allows them to be proud of what they've accomplished. You know, that they are a gamer, they're proud of, like, what, you know, their statistics, their stream, everything that goes in there, and then give them the ability to use that platform to seek out the opportunities that exist. This is a crazy time right now, but the reality is we need to help our students get placed into a job, get placed into a career. And right now on our site, thanks to our partnership with people like Hitmarker, there's 2,200 jobs right now globally on our platform. And I think that that's really, really important when you talk about school engagement, when you talk about university engagement. You know, you can come to our platform to learn, you can come to our platform to connect, but most importantly, you can come as a pathway to get into a career that you're super passionate about. And we talk about that all the time. That's not just for the majority of people, that's for all people. That's for every single demographic, every single person. And no matter if you're, you know, globally or here in the United States, we have a place for you to come and grow and develop and build and reach your goals in the space. And that's super important for us. And we take a lot of pride in making sure we represent all people, not just the ones that most do.
No, that's fantastic, and that's why your platform has made such tremendous strides in such a short amount of time. I know that you also focus on female or women gamers, and make a special point of doing that. Why is that so important to you?
Well, I think that, as you know, we want this structure, this industry to be strong, and we want it to represent everybody. And so it's really important that we support, girl boss tournaments. We support events that we're bringing an event and just going to be super special to the arena. You know, it's super important that everybody gets a voice, and our industry will be stronger when those minority voices get heard louder and they get that platform to showcase what they're doing. And that's really what we take a lot of pride in, is amplifying those organizations that represent all types of people. That's really, really important to Matthew's vision of esports and eFuse, but also for us to grow this industry and to provide the opportunities that exist out there and bring them to the platform. We need to do that for everybody.
I appreciate that, Patrick. Another interesting group of college students that are starting to see the benefits of esports are at the HBCU schools, across the East Coast and the South, certainly looking at those same opportunities for engagement, recruitment, et cetera. Kevin, what are your thoughts on moving esports into the HBCU schools as well as across traditional schools? Kevin, you're muted.
Sorry, Neil.
No worries.
As it relates to the HBCUs, I do know several, John Cash and Jay Gordon at Morehouse. I think it's a great opportunity to level the playing field in terms of access for people of color, especially marginalized communities. Because one of the challenges with esports is economic disparity. When you think about the adoption of the types of games that people are playing, you do see the trend shift towards consoles versus PCs, and a lot of it has to do with the cost of equipment and thinking about access to broadband and so on. And that's why you're seeing a lot of mobile engagement with esports over in Asia because of the proliferation of mobile devices. I think it's important at all levels of colleges for people of color, for LGBT communities, to be able to have access to esports programs because of its infusion of STEM-related, I guess, career development that's integrated. But also, I think the esports community, with it being global, it's not like American football where it's kind of restricted by the geolocation of the game. It's essentially global. So, you know, to your point, thinking even about your class, you know, related to the sociology of esports, you know, esports is an equalizer. You know, it teaches you globalization, business, teamwork, collaboration, and there's a socio-economic component to it that I think can help drive African American communities. So I think it's great that you're seeing all access in terms of you know, all the schools.
I agree with that, Kevin. The fact, you know, it's not about body size. You know, they say in basketball you can't teach height, right? So, but in esports you don't have to worry about any of those restrictions in terms of your physical abilities, and that's what I like the most. And I also think there's an opportunity here for special needs communities, for those children that have disabilities or you know, have some restrictions in their functioning ability. And I think being able to offer that in esports too will just make the industry so much more palatable and stronger amongst us, that I think we could really make a difference.
I agree.
Neil, do you mind if I add something?
No,
Yeah,
of course not.
You touched on the women part. Title IX is going to be a real issue, and it is already, and that's no matter where on a campus it resides, whether it's within an athletic department or in student life or club sports, you name it. And it's something, and we're trying to get our arms around it and do women's only leagues and all. But I do think, as an industry, we need to figure that out going forward pretty quickly, because I do think the Office of Civil Rights eventually is going to be coming in and looking at that.
I agree, Dan. I think that Title IX is obviously something that's very prescient on campuses. It's there. We have to be aware of it. I know as vice chair of the NJCAAE, Jeff and I have spoken about Title IX on occasion. Jeff, we addressed that early on with our bylaws and how we set the organization up.
Yeah, and we've actually aligned a strategic partnership with TNG or ATIXA. And so we'll be announcing that partnership here very soon to arrange for additional services that would be available to our members for that very purpose. But I think the one thing I would say, generally speaking, is Title IX applies to all things on college campuses. And so it's not a special dispensation, so to speak, to think that that esports is going to get any kind of special scrutiny or special attention. And frankly, as I see it, if we're doing this right, if we're truly focused on equity and accessibility, then it really should only help an institution's ability to show that they're doing the right thing and they're focused on compliance.
Appreciate that insight, Jeff. And again, it comes back to that word community, that word engagement. And I think looking at this panel, you all understand that, and in your various positions, you're working very hard to make sure that that happens in the esports industry. Trevor, your role at Generation Esports obviously is in the high school space, and we're here on a collegiate esports panel. But certainly your seat at this table is very important. Discuss for us the benefits of the high school, middle school relationship to the colleges, especially, again, to two of our leaders here of governing bodies, Dan Coonan and Jeff White.
Yeah, so high school is, you know, we have close to 3,000 high schools who have actually participated and are participating in our league, closing in on 100,000 players. And they need somewhere to go after high school. This is something they're passionate about, and there needs to be opportunities for them to advance to the next level. And it creates an ecosystem where it's beneficial for the colleges to have access to that pipeline, as well as beneficial to the students to have lots of options to go play in a 4-year college or a junior college. I'm excited to have the part with Jeff and the NJCAA. Everyone should be looking forward to that. It's going to be very exciting. But high school it's an impressionable. We're a STEM certified organization. We're partnered with Microsoft to get an actual approved curriculum into every school in America, and using that as a feeder and just preparing kids the right way and making them, part of this community that then kind of moves on up the chain into the 2-year colleges, 4-year colleges, and, just kind of hit the ground running.
I appreciate that. The academic piece of gaming, I think, is extraordinarily important. I know everybody on this panel has touched academics either directly or indirectly. And I think if there's coordination between the high schools and the colleges, that transition from high school to college would be a lot easier. And it might help answer that question I get at recruiting fairs. Are you telling me my son or daughter is going to go to college to play video games? And it's a lot easier to answer that when the academic piece is in place.
Absolutely.
Patrick, yeah, go ahead, Trevor. I'm sorry.
And we provide white papers and different studies and all sorts of things to show how the GPA increases. I mean, these are published by teachers and academic people that we're happy to share with anyone who needs, validation or reasons or proof that it actually works.
And it's great to have your perspective from that middle school, high school level, because they are the future of the college students and the college enrollment. So understanding what their needs are makes it a lot easier on the college level to meet them. Patrick, you're involved in academics as well with eFuse. Why don't you talk a little bit about what programs you're working with? You're on mute also, Patrick.
Yeah, sorry. There's 2 really important groups that we put together, because one thing that we are super adamant about is we don't know everything. The panelist on this panel alone has forgot more than we know. So we put together a group of a collegiate advisory board, scholastic advisory board, and really brought them together to say, hey, what do you need? Where are their gaps? Where are their holes? Where are their issues? And one of those issues was just the communication in general between high school and college coaches to showcase what they want. If you look at traditional sports, those recruiting platforms have been around for a long time. They've worked for a long time. So how can we integrate those back into the esports world to make recruiting a little bit more easier? And as Trevor said, it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to go be recruited to play at the highest level, the varsity level. I just want to know that there's an opportunity for me to fit in. And I was fortunate enough to attend CEX with Kevin Mitchell's incredible group. And one of the stats there is in high school, and Trevor and somebody in the high school space knows this probably more than anything. For a lot of these students, it's the first time that they've been involved in an extracurricular activity. We all know as coaches, as professors, how important extracurricular activities are for 21st century skill building and success. We have to provide more of those opportunities if that's the case. If we can help somebody get involved at their high school, and it doesn't necessarily mean playing. It could be, hey, I want to be a shoutcaster. Hey, I would just want to be a part of the production. Hey, I want to do this or that. And that is super important to provide those opportunities. And so when we got together these advisory boards, it was, hey, how can we fix the pipeline? How can we make the processes stronger? And then how can we deliver this high value to the collegiate coaches, to the high school programs, but more importantly to the students? That's why we're here, to provide those students with these opportunities. And so we're super fortunate to have incredible people on these advisory boards that educate us. They have representation for all the people on this panel. And I think that that's what makes this super special, is that we can bring people together and really solve the solutions by finding it from the people that are on the front line, that are doing it, that are having the issues.
Thank you, Patrick. Dan,
Neil.
I'm sorry, Kevin, go ahead.
Oh, Neil, I'm sorry to interrupt, but yeah, just to add to Patrick and Trevor's point, my daughter, she actually runs, she's a manager for a high school esports team. That's actually an HSL HSEL and Elkhart Central in Indiana. And she doesn't game. She runs the team, loves the community, and it introduced her to this vast open world that's leading her to MIT next fall. So it's beyond the gamers, to Patrick's point. It's really about the community, and the engagement, and when you think about all the layers of technology that fit, it's a great value proposition for anyone.
Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate that perspective as well, and that personal relationship that you have at the high school level is going to carry you well and at the college level as well.
Thanks.
Dan?
Can I make one more point when we're talking about high school, the connectivity between colleges with respect to esports and high schools? There aren't a whole slew of NCAA prohibitions against, in intercollegiate athletics. There's all sorts of restrictions where you cannot partner with high schools, and you cannot do a whole range of things that you might otherwise want to do. Well, in esports, it's fine to do that. There's no restrictions on it, and it opens up a whole avenue for colleges to create meaningful relationships with streams of students who might be interested in going to those universities. And I think it's a whole untapped area that colleges can take advantage of.
I agree, and the fact that as the commissioner of the ECAC and your breadth of schools as part of the ECAC, that relationship is certainly one that I'm sure your members are looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when you talk to college presidents, those that have really studied this issue are really excited about it. That's a subset of the whole group, but there's a lot that are pushing forward with it. I mean, SUNY Canton, for example, and they have all sorts of programming associated with academic programming, and they have found that nothing they have ever done as a university has brought more attention, media attention, to the university than adding esports and the esports program they have going. It's really remarkable.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's an amazing connection there. Jeff, recently the NJCAAE has made two significant relationships with STEM organization and with NJCAAE. Talk about those relationships, especially in regard to the academic side, and more importantly, that value add to the NJCAAE members.
Yeah, thanks, Neil. And I would throw into there from really all aspects, and Trevor hinted upon this. We are incredibly excited to share that we're going to be working with Generation Esports as our platform provider and major strategic partner. We also recently received the STEM.org accreditation for our esports program. And we have recently partnered also with NJCAAE, the National Association of Esports Coaches and Directors. All three of those pieces, and then I would actually include eFuse in that as well. eFuse is also a strong strategic partner for us. And I think it might have been Kevin that was talking about this, and I know Patrick has. We're really looking at the transition from high school student to college student to career and beyond. And so for us, the value proposition for our members and for students that attend our member schools is the opportunity to get a first-rate education at many times substantially less cost. And when you take into account dual enrollment programs, and I know those exist all over the country. I mean, I can tell you from firsthand experience, my daughter finished high school. I'm nearly completing an associate's degree and will shave at least a year off of her 4-year degree. And so, but therein lies one of the challenges for a lot of our members. Oftentimes, dual enrollment students don't necessarily convert to a community college or a 2-year student. Those are typically students that go to 4-year schools. And so through all of these different partnerships and through esports, we believe we can really further strengthen the connective tissue between 2-year schools and high schools so that transition is much more seamless. Of course, I go back to what I said in my initial statement about an engaged student as a statement. There's a student that stays and completes. And if I've been participating at a community college as part of the team, or if I'm familiar with the team, or my high school team is connected with that local community college team, that transition just makes a lot more sense. And so we're really, really excited to start sharing a lot of this information.
Yeah, the new 3 R's of education are no longer reading, writing, and arithmetic. It's recruitment, retention, and revenue for survival of these colleges. And again, the more academic programs like STEM and the NJCAAE organization helping the esports programs will certainly enhance those 3 R's. I want to transition a little bit to job opportunities. I remember reading about the sport management program at Ohio University was founded back in the 60s because Walter O'Malley, the owner of the Dodgers, could not find anybody to work in his organization that had sport management skills. And so talking to a college colleague of his, a professor, he was able to create this program to help develop those skills necessary to succeed in sport management. Well, I see the same exact trend now in esports, in that there is a need for skilled people to work in the industry, whether it's on the technological side or the business side or the academic side. Teaching students now in college will lead to a better workforce in the future. Patrick, Kevin, talk a little bit about those initiatives and why it's so important.
Okay, I guess I'll start. Yeah, Neil, to be honest, full disclosure, my goal in life really wasn't to be an academic. What drove me to being an academic was to, in fact, find skilled students that were able to matriculate in the esports industry. My day job doing business development and looking at emerging opportunities to invest in esports companies, looking at, Viacom, CBS, channel properties, and looking for content creation and any opportunity related to esports. There was no monster.com until eFuse came along that really provided a pathway to finding talent in esports. So what I did was I really just took a lot of the principles that Emerson College already had in their pre-existing focus in terms of communications, journalism, broadcast, marketing, and so on. And then I combined it with just looking at the job descriptions that were available for the esports industry. And then I created a curriculum based on those job responsibilities. And what I did beyond just the academic part of it is create an experiential learning component. CEX, the conference, resulted from it being a project in an esports event class where the students were tasked with putting together a conference. And it essentially evolved from a one-room space to now a global organization that we'll talk about later. But it was an experiential opportunity. The first semester we ran the Collegiate Cup for the Overwatch team, the Boston Uprising, which is Bob Kraft's gaming team. Last year, we did a big project with the Grammys on Twitch, and we've got probably 6 to 7 students that are placed at Team Liquid, Panda Global, Riot Games, that work for the Uprising. More recently, student Ethan, he's working with Misfits now in Miami, Boca, sorry. So it's an important part of building that pipeline, because just like we need an amateur to pro pipeline on the talent side, there needs to be executive talent developed, because there's not a lot available, to Patrick's point, and it's something that can help grow the industry. In the beginning, they really went to gaming companies and sports companies to pull executives, but you can tell that there's a clear domain expertise that's needed. And when I look at the students in my classroom, I learn just as much from them as I teach, because they're from all over the world. They're teaching me trends in China, India, Australia, things that I could have never absorbed as a 52-year-old male, just trying to keep up with all the trends and activities. So I think it's important to focus on the talent on the executive side just as much as the player side.
I agree, Kevin, and that experiential learning is something I bring to the classroom too, because I think students learn better by doing. and doing something in the real world. And I can tell you that they have a terrific professor there at Emerson, because that CEX conference was off the charts, well run and well organized.
Well, thanks to all you guys attending. It really was a community. It really wasn't me, my students. I had the vision and I had some of the foresight, but you guys attending and on the verge of a pandemic really made it special. So thanks to all of you.
I look around this panel, I think we all spoke at that conference in Boston. It was possibly the last time I was out of the state of New Jersey. But Patrick, your thoughts on this employment job opportunities? What avenues are available, and how are employers going to connect with those college students?
I think Kevin hit it on the head, and I want to back up because one, you mentioned the Bobcat, so that reminded me of why this was created. One of the things that Matt researched and studied was that this industry was so fragmented, and whether it would be through the game that you played or what you really loved about the industry. And so it's really important for us to bring people together, to collaborate. And in order for us to do that, we have to work together. Organizations have to work together. Universities have to work together. Conferences have to work together to make sure that we educate. And I think that's a piece that we really have to spend more time on, is we have to educate our students what opportunities exist. And there's organizations that are doing that at a high level. But the key is, one, parents don't know that I could go to college and maybe play a varsity esport. They don't understand the benefits of that. They're learning. It's becoming more of a topic, and we're actually, during this time, getting more of that and seeing more of that. So we're lucky in that regard. But we have to spend more time educating. There are so many students that are passionate about gaming that we have to educate them on careers that do exist. There are brilliant students out there that are passionate about gaming, that we can say, hey, if you're an engineer, you can go build a game. If you're in media, you can go work for a company and an agency and sell brand sponsorships and represent that. If you have a passion for playing, you can go and do those things and play with your friends. There's levels of everything, and we have to do a better job as an organization. That's something we talk a lot about, but all of us have to do a better job of sharing with the public, the general public, all that exists in this industry and the amazing things that people can do as a career. And globally, as Kevin said, if you want to go move to New Zealand, you can go work for Newzoo. If you want to go, do these things, you can do that with this and something that you're passionate about. And the last point I'll make, that's what companies want. They want employees that don't look at it as a job. They want employees that say, hey, I truly believe that this is something that I love to go to work to every single day, which is something I can say right now. But that's what's great about it. If you're passionate about it, you're going to want to do a little bit more and give a little bit extra.
And that passion has to be translated, like you said, into connections with employers and connections to the student, so that they can start to see some benefit to that passion and some benefit to those academics that they're going through. Dan, let's turn our attention to the ECAC for a moment. You mentioned earlier our partnership with ECAC and CSMG and the tremendous growth that the organization has had since you launched esports from 12 schools to 70 plus now. Talk a little bit about the ECAC, where it is now, what are some of your immediate goals coming up, and also maybe just mention the HV GamerCon event coming up in September.
So we've taken it national. We used to be a regional organization really for intercollegiate athletics with the 250 schools, but when we did esports, we changed our constitution, and now we have schools on the other side of the Mississippi and in Texas and Louisiana and Indiana and you name it, and we're happy to be, if conferences want to align with us and it could be a turnkey operation where they don't have to spend any money or do anything, just have their members become ECAC members. We wanted to do it at a really low cost, and we have, and I hired, speaking of hiring people in this industry, I hired somebody who was a gamer herself, and we brought her on as an intern as we just started this, and then realized very quickly we needed to pay her, and she's doing a great job. And of course, she's right out of college, but Lydia Pfister, but she runs our esports organization and is doing a terrific job in supporting all of this growth. So we're doing both. We have leagues for all our games. We have 9 games now. We run them all in the fall, and we run them again in the spring. So we crown champions in the fall, and then we crown them again in the spring. And we also have in-person events. We have HB GamerCon, which was going to be in April, and we've kicked that to the fall now. The state of New York gives us about $150,000 grant to run that event. The partnership that this has opened up are phenomenal, and like I said, it does allow us to go national, and we're going to continue. We're hoping to have over 100 schools, and pretty soon we'll have 15, 20 games, and with all of our games, you can enter as many teams per game as you want, and as many games as you want for a one very low cost of the membership. So we're really excited. We're excited to be partnered with CSMG and all that that brings, and the new alliances that they've brought to us. And it's just been exponential growth in a couple of years. And I'm the most unlikely guy to be carrying the torch, but I'm happy to do it. And it's been a wonderful thing. And our presidents love it and the impact that it's had.
And Dan, that's well stated, and certainly the growth has been impressive. Last week, you did something that no other college association had done with the Valorant event. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we have a great relationship with Riot. We didn't have great relationships with the gaming companies when we started. We just started going and going fast, but now we have a great relationship with Riot, and we heard from our folks, our members and students that about Valorant, and they wanted to do it, and so we reached out to them, and so we had a Valorant tournament last week, and we had a ton. We had California schools join us for that, which it's just great, and we'll try anything, and that's why I mentioned Lydia. She's aggressive and she's going for it, and we're just having fun with it, and that was a great example of it. This hot new game, and we're able to have a great collegiate tournament for it.
No, there was a tremendous event, 30 plus teams participating, and they really seemed to enjoy themselves, and it was a fun experience. Mm-hmm. Jeff, you're the chairman of the NJCAAE that was launched last August of 2019. So coming up on about a year now. Talk about the association, your relationships, and where you want the association to go in 2020, 2021.
Sure. Well, as you said, we formed a partnership in August 2019 and officially launched and announced and began competition in September 2019. We are the only exclusive 2-year esports association. Just like the NJCAA, the National Junior College Athletic Association, which has over 500 members and has been around since 1938, as the second largest athletic association, collegiate athletic association in the world. We intend to position ourselves in a very similar way. In our first semester, with 3 weeks lead time, we had 12 institutions and 90 students participate, which, taking into consideration, again, 3 weeks to do that, we were thrilled. I think that really spoke to the brand of the NJCAA as much as anything. In the spring, this past spring, we had over 20 schools and over 400 students participate. So as things stand now, we have 43 registered institutions, and based on the letters of intent, so to speak, that I've received from other members, we anticipate having at least 60 registered schools in the fall. I was initially projecting and expecting to have over 100 by the spring of 2021, and we may still get there, but it really remains to be seen what the impact of COVID is. I think there's no doubt that from a remote gaming perspective, it can have little to no impact. But the real issue, of course, is the budget for schools. And so We're seeing that some schools just can't commit any of the dollars to it because they're experiencing, several $100,000 or $1 million shortfalls because they're going exclusively online. Now, of course, we're really helping to focus on the engagement piece to put our members in a position to recognize that there's still an opportunity to keep their students engaged and try to help to continue to drive enrollment. But it's a balancing act, of course.
Appreciate that, Jeff. Yesterday, CSMG announced a partnership with LTN and the creation of the Esports U Network, a platform for content to be broadcast on the LTN system and services. Talk a little bit about the importance of content creation, content ownership and procurement, and the importance of having a platform such as Esports U Network for that content. Trevor, from a high school perspective, a lot of your events are online. The content created there is valuable content.
Yeah, absolutely. We just broadcast the different tournaments for the previous season, and there were 3 out of the 5 finals made it to the front page of Twitter, and we had, or excuse me, of Twitch, and we had close to 650,000 viewers on each one of those. So kids are excited. Kids want to watch it. It's kind of like a big deal to make it to the very end and have the opportunity to be streamed. If all of the games are streamed, I mean, it's that much more incentive to invite friends to watch, parents to watch. I mean, I remember I used to play college basketball, high school basketball, and you tell everybody to come watch the games, and making it easy where you can just watch a live stream is just super valuable. It gives them something to be excited about and something to really promote. And frankly, I think that the people who like to watch esports dwarf the number of people who actually play esports.
I agree with that. I think people do enjoy the visual part of esports and watching it and seeing that skill level across the different games. I couldn't agree more. Patrick, you're involved with some online events also, and certainly you have developed a great relationship in creating those events. Talk about that content development from a recruitment perspective and how important a network like Esports U Network would be for recruiting opportunities.
Yeah, we've been really lucky during this kind of downtime to bring some pretty cool events to the arena, which is the area where we bring and play our events. But I think that what we've seen is we've been able to bring athletes, entertainers, streamers, professional COD players to come play in these events and really clash these cultures. Last week, we helped Gunnar release an album, which was really neat. And I think that that's really important, right? We want to grow the net so that people understand how fun. And in the athlete world, when you talk to people like Seth Curry, they're going home from practicing and they're gaming. A lot of the athletes, that's what they do for fun. That's what they do to relax. And so if we can showcase how big this industry is, that's super important. And when you talk about it from a collegiate standpoint, to have a platform like that is going to be critical. It's going to be super important. And you can't grow the audience without giving them opportunities to watch, to participate, to see. And then that's really how you go. If you think about it, when I grew up in rural America in Appalachia, Ohio, and, we didn't have soccer growing up. And soccer really, it wasn't given to a lot of rural schools. And now there's soccer in Belpre, Ohio. And that's why the MLS is doing a little bit better, and it's doing bigger, and it's growing. So we have to continue to increase the age that we go back to give opportunities to, so that more and more people grow up and say, hey, that's something I want to aspire to. That's something I really want to be when I grow up. And I'm sure Dan at ECAC and Jeff at NJCAAE, that's what they want to provide for their students. Give them a platform so people can watch them compete just like any other.
Yeah, I agree. The platform is critical, and I think the opportunity to be able to put their own content on the Esports U network would be very attractive. I know a lot of the players love to capture their highlights and capture their best moments and show it off. And Kevin, this could be used as a recruiting opportunity, a recruiting tool, and also a promotional opportunity for college coaches or colleges in general to put those 2 or 3 minutes infomercials, so to speak, on the Esports U network, similar to what we see on a Saturday afternoon watching Ohio State, Michigan on a Saturday. You see the little infomercials. Esports U network could offer that same opportunity.
That hasn't been fun to watch, by the way, for the last couple of years. The Buckeyes have gotten it done. Just wanted to throw that in.
Well, it depends on who you're rooting for.
But yes, Neil, I think it's phenomenal. You know, the work that you guys have done to bring this to light. I think, you know, CSMG and your staff, Thomas and Ray, I mean, you guys are first class, you know, and I love the innovation that you're bringing to, I don't know if it's sports media or, you know, esports media. I think it's incredible. And I did get a chance to correspond with Tony from LTN, and I think it's a great platform, great service that everyone should check out. And I think that it's laying the foundation for the future of collegiate esports. You know, what's going to be the, you know, what Notre Dame did with NBC, what college program is UCI or is it Northeastern University? You know, which one is going to sign that big deal? And I think it's probably going to be something affiliated with the ECAC at the rate you guys are going. So I'm happy to hear that this came about.
Well, I appreciate that, Kevin, the kind words, especially. I'm excited for it also. Dan, having this platform now for a lot of our competitions will certainly be a value add to our members.
And Neil, you were talking about the content and the content that comes from the competitors themselves. With what's going on with the NCAA and name, image, and likeness, I think it's possible that esports will almost lead the way in some of that as they come up with, they already know ways to get their name out there and their own videos out there and all of that. And I think it may be instructive to some of the college athletes who are maybe doing this more for the first time. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out going forward.
Yeah, and I appreciate you mentioned the NIL aspect of this. Jeff, again, another piece of the bylaws that are being created at the NJCAAE and a work in progress. Obviously, NIL is not something of a hindrance at the NJCAAE, and an Esports U network again could be an opportunity for gamers to find other opportunities to get their name out there for recruiting and even you know, monetary purposes.
Yeah, that's a great point, Neil. We recognized early on the need to address the issue of amateurism. And of course, on the traditional sports side, when we're talking about the NJCAA and the NCAA and the NAIA and just about any other collegiate traditional sports association, there is that amateurism requirement. But again, we recognize that esports is just a different place altogether. And so we committed early on to making sure that there is no requirement for amateurism. And so this whole issue of content creation, I mean, as you said, Neil, it really speaks to brand, creating a brand, your own brand, enhancing your own brand. And really, from my perspective, it does the same for our member institutions from a recruiting and enrollment perspective. And also creating exciting opportunities to partner with local employers, because again, that's really what this is all about. And of course, the 2-year space, its bread and butter is workforce development. Myself firsthand, you know, at the community college that I was at, partnerships with local employers who had a national or international reach that actually came in, provided all of the necessary equipment and funding to create academic programs that were specifically geared towards recruiting a talent pipeline for them to hire those students. And so all of these things to say, creation of this content, creating those professional opportunities, it all lends itself to ensuring that our students post-graduation get meaningful degree related work so that they're not just going through checking a few boxes, getting a degree, and then looking around thinking, okay, what do I do now?
That's definitely one of the focuses that we have at the NJCAE for sure. I just looked at the clock, and it's hard to believe that we've been talking for about an hour already. Time sure flies when the conversation is as engaging as this has been. So there's been a few questions that have come up from the chat room, and so let me just leave with this last question, and it's an interesting one. From Charles Spencer, who asks, what are your thoughts on esports camps and helping middle high schools develop programs to a point where we can have academy teams? Trevor, what's your thoughts on camps similar to what we would see in traditional sports?
I'm seeing camps pop up all over the place. We've partnered with different camps. I mean, it's already happening, and it's going to continue to happen. And you know, a lot of the leagues are structured so that there's dead time in between, or, you know, you're not necessarily playing throughout the year. And even if you are, you know, you still have additional time if you're really motivated with esports. So I think camps are a great supplement. I think it's an opportunity for people to gather in person and kind of meet some of the people where a lot of times you might just be sitting behind a computer. You know, we're partnering up with groups like the JCC and the YMCA and all these other groups that want to do camps, and I just think I think it's part of the ecosystem. I think it's an important part, and I haven't seen any downside to them.
Hey Neil, if I could jump in real quick.
Sure.
Likewise, I can tell you here in the Charlotte area, we've seen some special interest, minority interest, or the affinity, the small affinity groups that are really focusing on creating other avenues for access. And so when we talk, the saying talk is cheap. It's easy to say, well, we want to be diverse. We want to promote equity. Well, these camps and focusing on the underserved and the under-accessed, so to speak, present a great opportunity to really show what esports can do. And again, I believe through our partnership with Generation Esports, our ability to really get into local communities and create strong relationships between high schools, community colleges, and employers to get all of those groups together. Everyone wins. It will be very simple at that point when you get that kind of team working together to then get grant money potentially, and to get the local government interested in participating and supporting those efforts as well.
I couldn't agree more. I think the camp aspect is going to be a piece of traditional recreation sports at rec leagues going forward as well. I don't see any difference going forward in regard to that. Patrick, you were shaking your head when I mentioned camps. What are your thoughts?
Well, first off, I want to say Charles, who asked the question, he's doing some great work at Eastern Michigan, and actually one of the camps that he has coming up that he pushed back a little is the women in gaming camp. So he already is doing some great work in those access and affordability and minority work. So kudos to him for that work. Yeah, we see it as a huge advantage. You know, anytime that you can work on your craft, anytime that you can find like-minded people and build relationships and connect, I think that's super important. When you talk to our ECAB and ESAB, these are great ways for high school students to interact with collegiate coaches if they're interested in collegiate esports. These are great ways to go see and learn about the majors that a Shawnee State or a Full Sail or an Emerson or a Caldwell have in esports. So yes, to all of it. Anytime that there's opportunities for young people to come and share and experience, it's a win for everybody. And as Jeff said, I think that collaboration is key. If we want to grow more of these opportunities, then we need to collaborate. We need to come together, and we need to do it at a high scale, a larger scale, so that more people have the opportunities. And I think that's really the one thing I just hope that we can do as a group is commit to that, is commit to more collaboration, commit to more working together so that we can provide more opportunities in the space.
I like that word as much as I like community collaboration. I think that's very important. Kevin, the camps can also provide academic access and employer access if it's sponsored or branded by a tech company or even a STEM organization. You get the gaming piece, but you also get a learning piece as well.
Yes, actually, about 2 years ago at Emerson, we started a pre-college program just for high school students to learn about the business of esports. I also ran the same camp at Becker College in Worcester last summer, and it was phenomenal. It didn't involve any particular gameplay, but introduction to esports, having global esports executives from Riot Games in Germany, from LA, Canada, all coming in on, it was Google Hangouts at the time, just to do lectures. It was a really an amazing experience for the students. They loved it, and I think it's something that we'd love to get further into and looking at even after school programs that could help support. I know there's one, our 12th man on the panel, James O'Hagan out in Wisconsin, he's doing a lot with high schools and helping to really teach the kids and looking at innovative approaches to engaging with esports. But I think the camp approach is the way to go. And this summer, since the pandemic has started, I've been helping the NFL and also the U.S. Army thinking about strategies on how they can do virtualized camps to still keep kids engaged, but also looking at alternatives if you can't meet in a physical space.
No, I appreciate that, Kevin, and I agree with you. And being immersed on the college campuses, your perspective has been valuable today. Dan, just a quick thought on the camps before we wrap up.
Yeah, I think the more you can connect colleges to some of those camps, even with the youth camps, and they can see that path, whether it starts at the grade school or high school or junior college and college all the way through. I think it makes a ton of sense, and I think the colleges would be interested in it as well.
Great. We're gonna start to wrap up here. Let me just make a quick announcement that our next panel, we're not finished with this one, but I have to start promoting the next one. June 30th, same time, 1 p.m. will be an HBCU panel with members from the MEAC and the SIAC conferences and some other industry leaders to talk about some of the issues facing HBCU schools across the country. And we ask you to join us again in 2 weeks at 1 o'clock for that. I know my friend Keisha will have already register for that as soon as that link comes up. I'm just going to go around the room, but in reverse order from where we started, to start with Jeff and wrap up with any last things you wanted to mention.
Well, I think first and foremost, I appreciate the opportunity to share this platform with everybody on the panel and with you, Neil. And I'll be brief. What I've observed in the esports space to date, I've been really pleasantly surprised. Is really, for lack of a better way to put it, is an altruistic focus. Our focus has been on, it seems everyone's focus is on growing the space, increasing access, and it's just so exciting. And I think the last piece that we just talked about there, the camps, the focus on all of the different kinds of camps that are out there and are being created. And so more than anything, I'm excited to be a part of building something that adds to this, to the overall altruistic feelings I think that everyone has when looking at this space. If anyone has any questions about the NJCAAE, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I believe my contact information might have been shared already, but I'll be sure to put that in the chat. I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone might have.
Appreciate that, Jeff, and thank you for joining us today. Kevin, any last thoughts? I know we didn't really get to the international piece, but we did run out of time here.
All right, I'll be quick and do my shameless plug. Thank you all for your support. We've got some exciting things coming up for CEX. A lot of you that appeared at CEX on video. I'm happy to say that we're going virtual. We have 4 events coming up. One in the U.S., CEX US. We also have 3 international partnerships that we have signed. One with CEX Brazil, which is a guy named Rick Manas, who's part of the CEX team in the US. We're partnered with a company called Toro Esports in Brazil, so we're launching that coming up this fall. We also have CX India, which is a partnership with a company called ESI in Chris Orlando, which I'm sure the CSMG guys know. Columbia sports grad. We've got some exciting things coming there, and also CEX in Africa, because we're trying to connect the world virtually now that we're not able to bring people together in the physical space. Just wanted to say thanks again for all your support, and shout out to everybody that's part of the network here. I love to see this and continue to keep it going. Thanks.
Kevin, your insights today have been tremendous, and we appreciate you being part of our panel and reversing the roles a little bit and putting you in the hot seat for once.
Thanks for having me.
You got it. Patrick, any last thoughts?
I just want to say thanks for the invitation to sit on the panel with such great people, and want to thank CSMG for all that they do and our partnership at eFuse as well. We're super blessed and lucky, and we're so grateful to the community for welcoming us. And our hope is that we can impact both the high school and the collegiate areas in a really value proposition way, but most importantly, provide students with opportunities. And those opportunities can lead to a career, it can lead to a lot of fun, or it could lead to maybe a scholarship. So really, really grateful for this opportunity, and thanks for having me.
Patrick, our partnership is very important to us as well, and we appreciate all that you do, and we look forward to more exciting times with us. Trevor?
Thank you.
Trevor, any last thoughts?
Excited that, one's coming out, so everybody tune. A lot of exciting stuff going on. Great job moderating. Thanks for including me. Michael, thanks for the intro. And Dan, Kevin, Patrick, Jeff, great to be on this panel with all you guys. And yeah, thanks for everyone who showed up.
Appreciate the kind words also, Trevor. It's been a pleasure getting to know you and working with you. And certainly CSMG is excited for the future relationships that we're building. Dan, last but not least, any final words? And again, shameless plug of your book is certainly allowed.
Well, I'll do a shameless plug of the ECAC first, but thanks for having me with this esteemed group, by the way. It's been a great discussion, and it's great to see this kind of excitement for esports. CSMG, what you guys are doing with us, it's great. It's really, we're just getting started, it's the next few years could be pretty spectacular. So I appreciate Mike and Neil, what you guys do with us, and it'll be an exciting time, I think. If for any schools that are interested, or conferences that want to be part of what we're doing, now's the time to connect with us. So Coonan at ecac.org, and we'd love to talk to you about it. And like I said, we're going national, all competitive levels, all sorts of games. We'd love to have you.
I appreciate that, Dan, as well. We're happy and proud to be partners with you, and we're excited for the future as well. So let's wrap up by again thanking this great esteemed panel. Your insights and your analysis today was spot on, and you made me look smart, and I appreciate that very much. And on behalf of CSMG, Michael, Shrek, Ray Katz, and the rest of our team, I just want to say thank you. And we'll have this video ready in a couple of days for anybody that needs to see it. Have a great day, everybody.